usually think that making mistakes is not good in life. TED and TEDx are like a little different things and people really do not know about it. The journey has been from being exploited to empowering students.
How did you understand this, empowering yourself and self-love thing?
If you do not have a plan for life, life would always have a plan for you. AI has taken over the world in a way where our cognitive processes have slowed down. The prompts as to how we've given the prompts and how we've trained our own chat GPT knows us better than us. How unicorns are real, they are real in her imagination because her creativity is so vast.
Oh my God.
If you want students to learn, you would have to be with them and learn with them as their friend.
What are those skills that are non-negotiable? You feel like in a child, in an adult, in a teenager?
Communication skills is not just talking, but it's also about listening and understanding the message.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Skills at School. I know you have been waiting for the next podcast to go live since a very long period of time. I believe it's more than 2 weeks that we didn't posted anything, but we are finally back. Actually, we have someone big coming. I should not say coming. She's already here with us because I say her big because I cannot actually title her with one particular word. Even if you check her on LinkedIn, you will see she is a TEDx speaker, she is a TEDx trainer, then I believe she's also working as an intern somewhere, and then she has been to several places, as a speaker, of course, and then a soft skill trainer, then, the title that I am very fond of, or maybe I should say I am very interested in, that is an educational psychologist. So, sabse pehle to I want to know, how are you, Libanshi? Uske baad I want to know, how do you actually title yourself? Who are you actually?
So thank you so much for having me on board for the podcast and answering your question, which you are very intrigued about. How do I title myself? Well, I do not like to put myself in a box of labels.
See, I told you.
I do not like that, and that is why I am a dynamic girl. I'm a dynamic person who tries to do every bit here and there, and I just do not like to be known as just educational psychologist or just a soft skills trainer or just a TEDx speaker. So it's just everything that I do. Apart from that, which I think is not even on my LinkedIn, is that I'm a photographer and I'm also a poet. So that is something of things that I do, experiment here and there. And I'm just I think a dynamic person would do. Dynamic person without labels.
That is so sweet. Also, she has clearly mentioned it's not just, I believe you have done some sort of web development, like graphic designing also, UI, UX also. So it's not just, there are more and more coming. But, I just want to know, exploring is something that we all do. But now what you're up to? What's the future plan? What's the path that you're ongoing? And how did the journey started?
Okay. What's right now? Okay. I would say I just returned from Bangalore after doing my master's. And right now I am trying to figure out life. I am just as lost as like a 12th grade student right now. And I don't know what I'm up to. However, I'm currently working at OMG. It's Organic Microgreens, and it's a Hyderabad-based edtech, agri-edtech. And they've represented India in a lot of conventions across UN. They're working with UNCCD. They're working with the Commonwealth right now, majorly. And I'm a part of all their projects that are going on to create awareness around sustainability, educating students, and not just students, but people across the globe to just have awareness about SDGs, as Sustainable Development Goals. And now coming on to the question how the journey started. Well, I don't know. I took birth. That's how it started. But what exactly? I just want to know, what do you want to know as to what of my qualifications, my career, or just how I started exploring? I I'm not sure what
Okay.
the people would want to know.
I'll just give you a brief of it. I mean, firstly, I really appreciate that you acknowledged that, even after doing masters, you're still figuring out things and, you're learning because, we feel like so much burdened as Gen Zs and,
Yeah.
millennials. Of course, I mean, I think you're a mix of both. So I won't say you don't come in Gen Z, you don't come in millennial also. But then, there's a lot of pressure, but you accept it with so much of acknowledgement. And now coming back to the question, what I exactly wanted to know, like, how did this journey of you knowing yourself started? How did you, got into this thing that, this is something that I love, this is something that I want to do. And because, you have a good fan following, I should say, on LinkedIn. And, you made yourself as a personal brand out, you explored. I mean, there are times when we don't know what we want to do, but, you took a stream that you aligned to. And then, I believe media psychology was something that you aligned more towards, but then, people don't know much about that. So I just want to know the whole journey, where it all started and how is it going and.
Okay, so again, quite interesting. Now, when I was in 12th grade, like I told you that like right now I am as lost as a 12th grade student. Some Gen Zs might be very clear, like their path, they want to go to like an Ivy League college, having their portfolios made. However, I on the other hand had nothing. I came from a school which focused on academics,
Okay.
and that was just my thing that okay, I just want to get done with my academics. I was my school topper, class topper, and I was just into academics. And that's when the COVID hit.
Okay.
I gave my boards. I guess I was the last batch who gave the boards, and after two of the batches that I had, they did not give boards. So I was the last batch who gave boards, and that's how I was termed as okay. This is the last batch who gave boards, and now they are going to get into colleges on the basis of their marks. Okay, I got into DU, which is quite a reputed college across India and somewhere in the globe as well. So I got into DU, and that's when I started exploring. People usually think that making mistakes is not good in life, whereas when I started my journey, I started making mistakes, and that's where I learned.
Okay.
So my first biggest mistake was to underestimate myself and just I would say undersell myself in a way which made me exploit myself in a way which wasn't right. However, that was the first thing that made me learn who I am and who I can be. I joined an organization and I just started working there. They kind of exploited how I used to work, and it was a journey of hell for 3 years.
Okay.
I worked there, and yeah, I mean, through that journey, I got to know that okay, this is something of a field which does have people who can exploit you. And right now, I am in a similar field, where I want to educate the students, where I want to educate people that this field can also be something which can empower you. So from a journey of exploitation to empowering is something that I've learned across my undergrad. And then when I went for my PG in Bangalore, I started doing stuff of my own. I got into schools for training students in soft skills, and then also got into TED training. TED and TEDx are like a little different things, and people really do not know about it.
Yeah.
However, I also explored that area. So that was something I did by myself. And I just wanted students to know that, you are not here to be exploited, you are here to be empowered.
Yeah.
So I would say the journey has been from being exploited to empowering students. And that's what my aim is.
Oh, that's so sweet. I mean, this is so beautiful, that you said. मुझे ऐसा लगता है ना लाइफ में ना हमारे साथ चीज़ें होती शायद इसीलिए है because they give you that strength and they make you what you actually deserve to be, or maybe that I should say the purpose of you becoming that person in the journey helps you to help a lot of students lives, I should say, a lot of things go on around this. But I just want to know so how did the journey, like when you started empowering people, first of all, of course there would be an empowerment that took within you. How was that journey? How did you understand this, empowering yourself and self-love thing? How does that happen?
So, self-love, as you bring it up, it does not happen in a night. It
Yeah.
took me years to understand that I can also be something. If not nothing, I can be something. And I mean, it wasn't just like an enlightenment. It was a journey that I had to do. And it came through empowering others. So empowering myself also came through empowering others when I saw that, okay, people are coming up to me and asking me, how did you do this? How did you do that? Whereas I was just trying certain things, ट्रायल एंड एरर का जो प्रोसेस होता है, मैं बस वो ट्राई कर रही थी अपनी लाइफ में कि ठीक है, ये नहीं हुआ तो ये सही, ये नहीं हुआ तो ये सही. एंड पीपल केम अप टू मी एंड आस्क्ड मी, स्टार्टेड आस्किंग मी, हाउ डिड यू डू दिस, हाउ डिड यू डू दैट? एंड आई वाज लाइक, ओके, maybe I can do something. If people are actually coming up to me and appreciating me for my work, maybe there's something. So it was not a journey where I empowered myself and then I started empowering.
Okay.
It was more of a parallel journey of empowering people and feeling empowered by empowering them.
Oh.
So that was the thing, and which also reminds me one of this instance, and I've also mentioned that in my TEDx as to how I had to struggle for straight 2 years to establish a photography society in my college, and then when I finally did it, just a little update, my principal herself, she said that, you know, she used to come up every day and was like, I want to establish a photography society, and I'm really sorry I did not know anything about photography then. And that kind of also made this impression that persistence is very important when it comes to one's journey. Like failure is as important as persistence, and it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So it was a parallel journey of empowering and being empowered.
Oh my god, that's again so, like, you know, I will get tired of saying that, you know, the things are so beautiful. And there's one more thing that you mentioned over here was from nothing to something. But I just want to know, like, is that stopping right now? Is that something, or that is going to, like...
No, it's being redefined every single day. I can be a daughter one day. I can be a TEDx speaker one day. I can be a keynote speaker one day. I can be an educational psychologist one day. So that redefinition is going on at each and every hour. Like even right now when I was in the cab, my mother was texting me, my mother was calling me. So I was fulfilling all the duties of a daughter. But here right now I am talking as a speaker. So that role is being redefined every single hour, and that something is being redefined. So it's not stopping anywhere. It's just like the evolution is going on for that. So yeah.
Got you. Makes sense. Like it perfectly makes sense, and it revolves around all of these things. Okay, now coming to the educational psychology part of yours, I want to know, like, you know, what was the age? Like, you know, of course, you got admissions into DU, but of course, you know, at times when we are into 12th, we have to think about that. And then coming to DU, how was the process over there? How did you enter? And, you know, how did you choose the stream that you wanted? And was educational psychology the only thing that you wanted to do? So, like, how did that turn out?
All right. So like I told you, I was the COVID batch, and our I would say how we got into DU was way different as to how it is done right now. So I just got on the basis of the cutoffs that I had. So I had 97.25% in my 12th class, and that's how I got into DU. So it was applied psychology, BA honors in applied psychology.
Okay.
And they do not have any specific specialization in DU. In bachelor's.
Okay.
So we do not have, across India, we do not have any specialization on the bachelor's itself. So you need to do your applied psychology or your normal psychology if you're doing your bachelor's in arts.
Okay.
I did my honors there, and then life happened when I started seeing, okay, like my bachelor's is about to get over, and I really want to see how... or what I want to do in life. So I started exploring across the internet. And I mean, I always had this inclination towards media psychology or media field in general. But to my surprise, there's no master's degree or a specialization in media psychology in India as of now. And I had plans to stay in India. And my UG dissertation is also based in media psychology. So that was something that I was very passionate about. However, it just did not happen. But like life says, life always has a plan for you. If you do not have a plan for life, life would always have a plan for you. And that's how I landed into educational psychology. Now, across India, only Christ Central Campus. There are like 6 campuses in Christ, and even then, only that particular campus has educational psychology at the master's level across India. So life had a plan for me. I somehow, I don't know, I mean, I would call it luck by chance,
Okay.
but also hard work, because many people could not get into educational psychology. However, I did. It was the work that I did in my undergraduation in the field of education itself, because I wasn't just studying, I was working parallelly. So I got into my post graduation, and that's when I did educational psychology, and that's when I realized that it's not about that you were not able to do something in life which you planned, because life always has a plan for you, and there's something bigger coming. So no matter what you're doing, there's always something bigger planned. It can be bad or it can be good, but for me it has always been beneficial. So I think that was how I got into educational psychology, and I did become an educational psychologist.
Oh, finally. Also, there you mentioned a line that, life has a plan for you, and, of course, bigger and more bigger. And this was the same thing that I read on your PhD thing. So, do you want to tell me about that story?
Okay. That's kind of embarrassing, but okay. So I did my UGC NET, and UGC NET is usually done or attempted when you want to get into PhD. So most of the colleges have this thing that they would take UGC NET, people who've cleared UGC NET, and they would take them in for PhDs. I did not prepare for UGC NET. However, I did apply for it, and I couldn't, because Christ is known to be very hectic. The course is very rigorous, and the in general, I would say atmosphere in Christ is quite hectic. So I wasn't able to prepare for my UGC NET at all, and I was very tense as to, oh my god, I don't want to go to just even appear for the exam, but I did, because I applied. And again, to my surprise, I was just behind by 10 marks. So the cutoff was 190 and I got 180. And that's when I realized that Labhanshi, agar thoda sa pad leti to kya ho jata? But again, I mean, if I would have cleared it, I might have stayed in Bangalore, and I wouldn't have been here with my family, or in Delhi, the city that I absolutely adore and I love. So I think me not clearing UGC NET was also a plan of life, that I am here now in Delhi. And I am doing things that I love. I'm just taking rest. I'm eating homemade food 3 times a day. What else do a person need in their life? उनको अपने घर का खाना मिल रहा है मम्मी के हाथ का. So yeah.
I mean, this pain, only the people, those who have been away from their parents since a very long period of time, they can understand. But, here is a picture that comes. Like, you said educational psychology, it's very rigorous and all of that. And, although you applied for PhD, pehle to what was that force that made you apply? Because appear to nahi karna tha, mujhe jahan tak samajh aa raha hai, you didn't wanted to do it. But there was a force that, you applied for it.
Right.
That was one thing. Of course, that is a story that became. But apart that also, how is educational psychology, and what are the future careers, and what kind of people should also opt in for that, because you've done it, so I feel like you would have the better understanding of that.
Definitely. So if I talk about the prospects of educational psychology, it's not just about being in the education field, but it can also extend to the back ends of education. It's basically the science of learning. So educational psychology comprises the science of learning as to how a person starts learning, right from the child who's been birthed, right? How is their language acquisition working, to the geriatric population, as to what their thought processes are and how they are still learning and adapting to their atmosphere. Okay, so it's just the science of learning. But if we talk about learning in terms of a commercialized sector, it just leaves us to the institutions, the schools, the colleges, and the universities. So majorly, educational psychologists work in the area of education, where we need to understand the development of the students, make sure that they are able to comprehend things in a way which aligns with the contemporary world. Like, we are in the world of AI, and I've always emphasized it that AI has taken over the world in a way where our cognitive processes have slowed down.
Yeah.
So we are not able to think of like even a simple, I would say, answer to a question.
Yes.
Right?
I agree with that.
And the chat GPT, the prompts as to how we've given the prompts and how we've trained our own chat GPT knows us better than us.
Yes.
So that is something that, educational psychology delves into as to how to create an environment for the students where they understand themselves better. They are able to outperform themselves every minute. And the prospects for like the titles, I would say, would be majorly like school counselors or career counselors, curriculum developers. We can also get into educators. We can also get into training students and teachers. So there are a lot of things that are being done, but people are just not aware of it.
Yeah.
So educational psychology is a pretty, I would say, new field, and ours was like 5th cohort.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just 4 more cohorts
More
before
cohorts.
us, and I was the part of the 5th cohort. So
Lucky.
not many educational psychologists in India. However, we all are working towards different areas. So some of my seniors are also working in special education,
Okay.
which is specifically for the students who are, who have some special needs, who are maybe having some disease or a disorder.
Disabled.
We don't call them disabled, we call them specially challenged.
Okay.
Yeah, so disabled is when you are not able to, so there are different degrees.
Okay.
If I get into that, disabled is when they are not able to perform 80% of the functions,
Okay.
their daily chores.
Okay.
So that is disabled. Specially challenged would fall somewhere, between 20% to 30% of their normal functioning is not happening.
Okay.
So there are different terms, specially challenged, disabled. Then there's also disorder, like if you know, there's something called Down syndrome. It's a genetic disorder. So it leaves you with, IQ challenges. Like you would not have IQ. It would be like, below average IQ.
Okay.
The muscular development of the child would not be proper. So all these disorders affect the daily functioning of a child. So how do we make more of an inclusive environment for them so that they are able to learn and grow in their life?
I mean, this is so amazing. This is so amazing.
And this is just one part of educational psychology. So yeah, I've just touched upon the tip of the iceberg.
Oh my god, like I miss so much. Oh god, I actually, relate to this, but I feel like now because I didn't pursue psychology and all of that, so I was like, okay, let's do some life coaching, let's help, because I was always into it. Like I always wanted to talk to people, help them out and all of that. Now this is somewhere or the other connected to the, I believe there's TED trainer,
trainer.
something of that sort that you are, and you actually train students over there, I believe, young
Yes.
students. So is that relatable to this? I mean, okay. Also, you have been a TEDx speaker. I also want to know that TEDx speaker wala journey. What is the difference between this? How did you land a TEDx speaking session? And then this TEDx trainer is like aligned to the educational psychology part that you're doing. And how do you do it? And what is the change that came in you after doing that?
That's a great question, and I have a lot to say about that. Okay, so first of all, I'll just clear out the difference between TEDx and TED-Ed. So they both have the branches of TED, which is basically a community of change makers and people who would just want to discuss ideas.
Okay.
So TED-Ed is TED education, where children are being taught and made aware about certain topics or themes, whereas TEDx is a platform where people would come and disseminate their ideas.
Yeah.
So TEDx can just be a platform, it can just be an event, whereas TED-Ed is a group of people, a community of people who come together and discuss ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. Now talking about my journey of, I was first a TED-Ed trainer, so I would start with that.
Okay.
I was again in Christ, and there was this alumni of Christ, Mr. Nagarjun, and he is the principal of a Montessori school in Guntakal, Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
So through my social media, he tracked me down and saw that I was a soft skills trainer, and he wanted to start this club in his school. And probably he's one of the first principals I've ever seen who actually, I don't know if I should use this language, but gives a damn about the students. Like usually the principals that I have seen, they would want to do something for the school. But here, this principal actually makes a difference in the lives of the students. And I have seen that firsthand. So he reached out to me and asked me to train a couple of his students just in public speaking and, just presenting upon their ideas. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll do that. And that's when we started the TED Club. He was like, okay, I got the license from TED and I think we would run this in the format of a TED Club. I was like, okay, the sessions that I have planned, I can tweak it according to the TED Club format and we can come up with something. So I had 6 students.
Okay.
And my journey with them has been amazing. Like it's not even has been a roller coaster. It's just have been like a parabola where in the first session with the parents, they were just blank as to what TED is to actually giving feedbacks for me, for their children, for Nagarjun sir, how we've pushed the limits of the students. So it has brought a lot of changes in me. It has aligned with my field of educational psychology in a way where I have a better understanding as to how the minds of children work, how they learn. And I mean, I just have this one instance which I really wanted to share as to how I have just started seeing the whole process of education in a very different manner. We were discussing upon that, okay, if a student wants to give a TEDx speech, what it would be. Okay. And this girl, her name is Aiza, okay, and she's the cutest child that I've seen. And she just comes up to me and say, ma'am, I want to talk about unicorns.
Okay.
And I was like, Aiza, I mean, I understand that you want to talk about unicorns, but in a platform like TED, where we are talking about important issues like, how motor car works, how dance influences your mind, how yoga helps improves your health and all of that. You want to talk about unicorns? I was a little hesitant. And that's when she was persistent on, no, ma'am, I want to talk about unicorns. I was like, it's okay, Aiza, we'll talk about unicorns, but let's just also discover other ideas. Let's just also explore that what else you can talk about. And the session was over, and I'm of the belief that she talked to her mother. Her mother also tried to convince her that, Aiza, you want to speak about something else. That's when Nagarjun sir actually called me and he told me that, Labhanshi, Aiza wants to talk about unicorns. Like, she really wants to talk about unicorns. And that's when I realized that how much I was hell-bent on the idea of education being a very concrete and strict path for the students.
Yeah.
As to know, you have to take science in order to succeed in life. You need to study maths in order to succeed in your life. You need to take social sciences if you want to become a psychologist. And I completely, I would say, discarded the idea of her own individuality. And that's when I also realized that, Labhanshi, you really are, hell-bounded by the ideas of education system. And now if you go to her TED talk, you'll see her talking about how unicorns are real. They are real in her imagination because her creativity is so vast.
Oh my God.
That's how she and her mother, and obviously, along the course of the whole TED program that we had, and I have goosebumps right now. So that's how we transformed her idea of unicorns being actually real, and how education system has just constricted us, or how the parents, or like the parents in general, has constricted us to believing into certain ideas. So that's how, my perspective towards education also changed in a way. That was one of the experiences that I had, and yeah.
I mean, it is so nice to see that, at times these students...
And she is just in 4th class.
Oh my God. Like, these kids, like the kind of, like they think now, you'll see like, jab you were bounded to your things. No, even your parents, or I would say even us, that shows like what are we coming from. We were always bound to a particular system. So that was actually coming up, in front of Aiza and you were like, no, we're like, but then, like her picturing it so beautifully to us. I also want to know one more story now. Like,
okay.
I want to tell you one more story about this, like, because I just love doing this. That one more story which is still in your heart.
Okay.
Apart this one.
Okay, so I mean, it's not more of a story, but it's just one of the incident which made me learn something. So initially, when teachers or like our educators are teaching us, they come up with an authoritative figure that they are superior or like a little authoritative than us who are teaching us.
Yeah.
So like in a class, the dynamic is like the teacher is standing and the students would be learning from the teacher. Now, this instance, it happened when, there was the last days of the program going on and they were just rehearsing their speeches, they were rehearsing their ideas as to how they are going to present it.
Yeah.
All right. And I was like, okay, there's like 1.5 hour session and I cannot listen to each and every student and give them feedback
Feedbacks.
properly or make them, repeat me each and every student individually. So
Yeah.
it's in a class of 6, it's not really possible on an
Possible.
online mode.
Yeah.
So what I did was pure like buddy system I did. I paired them. There were 6 students. I paired them in the groups of 3. I made them just join 2 breakout rooms. And that's when they started rehearsing. I did not interrupt them for 1 hour straight. They were just rehearsing and I just kept checking on them that they were practicing, not doing, just going here and there. And okay, that all happened. They came from the breakout rooms and I was like, okay, I'll listen to your speeches in the next session. That happened. Mother of one child calls me up and she was like that, ma'am, what did you do today? This guy, his name something was from D. I really do not remember now. I'm really sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
So he is speaking really well today. And I was like, ma'am, I did not make them rehearse today, but I just buddied them up with some people. So she was like, yeah, I was watching. He was very active in the session and he was interacting with the students really well, which made me also realize that somewhere or the other, I was like, not their buddy who was learning from them or making them learn, but I was coming from an authoritative place. Whereas if you want students to learn, you would have to be with them and learn with them as their friend, not just somebody who comes from, a place of authority.
Yeah.
So that was another story that stayed with me and made me realize that, okay, this is what learning is about.
Actually, this is what each and every, there are so many parameters that you have opened up. One is people they actually do not need someone, I should say, to guide them, or at times they already know what they want to do. All they just need is somebody to be there, somebody to
Yeah.
say them at times that, मैं हूँ तो कर ले यार, तुझे जो करना है.
Exactly.
I mean, that one thing. Also, bringing up, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys will hate me for this, but I just want to say it. Even if they're parents, even if there's somebody who's older than you or, elder than you, it doesn't brings that respect. Honestly, at times their opinions could be more different or they couldn't align to your thing, and it's okay. Let them speak. Do what
Exactly.
your heart says. I mean,
Exactly.
these are so little things that make so many changes. And I am so happy that you went through this journey, and the change you as a person would be bringing up in this society, and in your I can sense it, you as, like, of course, females, like you as a mother at some time. I'm not sure if that will happen, that will not happen, it's particularly your choice, but then you'll see the change in the upbringing of that child who Labhanshi
Yeah.
will
Definitely. Like the children whom I've been with have drastically changed, because I remember in the first session, another story, a very small one. Aiza's mother, she told Aiza, or like she told in front of Aiza to everyone that she's a very shy kid. And I've always been against labels.
Okay.
That you just cannot just label somebody as, introvert or extrovert or just shy or like too talkative. You just cannot label a student or like a child like that. So I just called her out that, ma'am, you really cannot just call her shy, because I am sure she has a lot of potential. And in the feedback session, her mother herself was very surprised as to how Aiza have started begin to be, an outgoing student or an outgoing child who's talking to everyone, who's talking non-stop with everyone, started answering in class, taking initiative about discussing stuff. So that is how Aiza's journey I have seen from like her mother labeling her as a shy kid to her being the center of attention for everyone.
Oh my god. Like, this is so sweet. I mean, you know, when you put labels, you bound them to a particular thing. I mean, you bound them to that place कि नहीं यार ये तो ऐसा ही है and all of that. And at times you will see, अगर आप एक बच्चे को starting से बोल रहे हो ना कि वो तो shy है, वो तो you will see that will turn out to be a shy person. But if you don't bound them to, I mean, this is so beautiful again. I will let it have goosebumps after this podcast. I'm honestly going to cry because this is so much relatable to we as, you know, like, you know, our relationship with parents and, you know, how the society bounded, because we are not, you know, what we internally are. I feel like it's all bounded by the environment, surroundings,
Definitely.
what we have been, what kind of people have we been. All that comes from there. So I want to know what changed in you as a person, your studies, your researches, and all of this, like till now, till date, till your age as 23. What changed in you as a person? It came from, you know, who was a teenager from 18 to now. So these years.
Well, I have taken parts of my students and inculcated that in me. So me coming from being again a labelized introvert to somebody who can talk to everyone, be it on camera, be it live, be it one-on-one, be it in a group.
Oh my god.
So from a labelized introvert to somebody who just can talk to anyone, that's how my journey have been also. And you know, I told you, I used to undersell myself a lot, did not feel that, okay, I have some capacity or capabilities to do something, and I was exploited for quite some time. So that journey of realization has come from people realizing their own potential. So when I see somebody realizing their own potential, I am kind of jealous with them that how does that person realize their potential and how am I still not able to realize what I can do? So just bits of that, everyone whom I've seen realizing, I have also realized in bits and parts and carried their part in me for like a very long time.
Oh my god, this is again like, you know, I feel like, again I said na कि environment का बहुत ज़्यादा असर पड़ता है. तो you know, the people that you meet, the stories that you listen to, I feel like ऐसे बोलते हैं कि नहीं web series नहीं देखनी चाहिए. I am like, no, go watch it, see that experience, that film. You know, at times you'll see a 15-minute video can bring a lot change in you. Like,
Definitely, and that also brings me to my latest realization. So I'm a big fan of K-dramas, and there's this particular K-drama called When Life Give You Tangerines. So I recommend everybody to watch it because that would give you the ultimate lesson of your life.
okay.
Like, you would be able to understand your grandmother, you'll be able to understand your mother, your parents, your siblings, and your partner in so much of depth that you would be like, okay, if I want a fulfilling life, this is what I need to be. Or this is how I need to look at people, or I need to treat people so that I can have a better life.
Oh my god, I will watch that. I am sure I'm gonna do that because I feel like, you know, there's one secret thing that I am going to reveal for the first time in the camera. So like, whenever I wanted to escape from the reality, I used to go and watch a movie. Like for 3 hours straight, you will be out of what you were going through. You'll go through in a different mindset, different learnings, different opinions, and you come back to the reality, you're not the same person anymore.
Definitely.
That happens. Cool. So bringing all of this to an end, because we are at Skillset School, I would love to know, what are those skills that are non-negotiable you feel like in a child, in an adult, in a teenager? Also, how these skills brought a change in you as a person. That is one thing. That one skill is personal branding that I want to know from you. How did you manage to do it over LinkedIn? Because I believe you were LinkedIn top voice also at some time, right?
Yeah, I had that because I had LinkedIn Premium from my college.
Okay.
So that also, so having LinkedIn Premium is a privilege. And I had that privilege for straight a year because I got LinkedIn Premium from my college. And trust me, the benefits that I got was ultimate, and I took full on like full-fledged फायदा उठाया मैंने LinkedIn Premium का. I used to send people requests with notes because that gives you that feature. So you can just send notes, and I connected to like some of the top voices just because I send them notes. So if you can get LinkedIn Premium, get it. Don't hesitate.
All right. Now coming back to the skills question
Yeah.
and understanding that part.
Right. So one skill that is non-negotiable, I would say it's communication skills. Right. Even the child is trying to learn how to communicate. So empowering the child with language is the first thing that I would want to do. Like the child is not able to explain. Let's just say that if a child is in like first grade or like kindergarten, they are not able to explain what they are going through. If they did like, they stole something, they would not be able to understand the feeling of guilt unless and until we give them words to communicate. So for a child, a communication skill also holds relevance as it is for somebody who's in their 20s or 30s, like us, who are in our 20s. So communications starts right from the birth when the child starts, making cooing noises, because every cooing noise has like a different tone and pitch which reflects something different. If a child is hungry, the child has pooped or something. So every different cooing noise has a different relevance. So even the child is communicating, and that is important for us as adults to understand, right? So communication skills is non-negotiable, and when you come in school, communicating with peers, teachers, and later on when you become corporate majdoors, it is important to communicate in a professional language. And I think because I was working in an organization for quite some time, I understood the in and outs of how to use a corporate language. So corporate language communication is a little different from real life. So you need to understand both the dynamics. So now my friends, if they ever want to like write an email to their HR, they would just ping me up, Labhanshi, can you please help us write an email to the HR? And I'm like, no worries, I got you.
Actually, people feel like communication is more like English. No, we don't
Not at
refer
all.
to that. I mean, I feel like to communicate at times, you just want the other person to understand. I mean, it has a lot of roles in it. It's just not to English or something of that sort.
Definitely.
Corporate language is completely different. If you want to communicate with your friends, parents, I mean, there are a lot of things that
So there's something called cycle of communication.
Okay.
And the cycle of communication has a sender, a receiver, and a message.
Okay.
People just completely misunderstand that communication is going to be just talking. It's also about listening skills and understanding. So that also brings me to the secondary skills which are non-negotiable for me, is that if you are talking or if you are a public speaker, you also need to have listening skills. And that also something, in educational psychology, we had this paper called multicultural counseling skills.
Okay.
So that also teaches us listening skills. And that has helped me inculcating the listening skills in myself itself. So it's like, a total package. Communication skills is not just talking, but it's also about listening and understanding the message.
Yeah. Got you.
So yeah.
So what about these skills that brought a change? I mean, how come these skills were helpful, and personal branding too? Thoda sa.
Okay. Communication skills again has been very important to me because again, if I did not observe people, I wouldn't have realized that people are evolving with me, and that's how I evolve. So observation skill is another communication skills, because if you see that someone is uncomfortable, then only you will be able to reach out to them. Are you comfortable here? Are you sitting well? Or something like that. Like right now, if I am like this, then you'll be like, oh, she is shivering, which means the AC might be like too high.
Yeah.
So if I could just switch on the AC. So observation skills also comes in communication skills. And that is something that holds very, I would say it's non-negotiable and holds a very special place in my heart, that if I want to teach a skill to students, it would be communication skills.
Okay.
And coming on to your next question, which is personal branding, it just happened.
Okay.
I did not intend on branding myself. It just, I started talking about myself in a, I would say in a pictorial manner with the random videos I make. I just started talking about myself, and I wasn't like, okay, I just Labhanshi, you're a brand or something. No, I treat my Instagram and my LinkedIn as a personal diary. So even if you see my post that got about like 66,000 impressions, was the one where I acknowledged that, I failed in my UGC net.
Oh, the PhD one.
Yeah, the PhD one. So that was when my Instagram really took off. I had 1,000 followers something, and now I have 2.5k. So that's when the boost happened, because I talked about myself. So if you want to treat yourself as a brand, or you want to start personal branding, you talk about yourself in a way that people would take away something from it.
Adding value
To yourself. And it's not even about adding value, it's just about expressing yourself in a manner where people can just relate to you.
At times when you scroll over reels, you just find something relatable. You just find something that, whatever I am facing, maybe somebody else is also facing. You're able to communicate. I'm just not like, you actually do that. And, I believe people will be able to relate to you more, because that authenticity of yours that you carry, oh God. I mean,
exactly. Like, I am in like talks, or I talk to this, I'm quite close to him in terms of, I would say, professional terms. There's this geography teacher in Holy Child School, Mr. Vipin. And I came across, with him in one of the Model United Nations. And I mean, that person, he is a geography high school teacher who's teaching there for the last, 10 years. And he told me that he cleared his UGC net in 3rd attempt.
Okay.
So, such a renowned person also did not talk about his failure.
Yeah.
And when I talked about my failure, or I talked about one of my setbacks, that's when people who are renowned, who have some position in their life, they also started talking about their own setbacks and what led them to that particular milestone. So I would say that we all hesitate to talk about failures or setbacks.
Yeah.
But that's also, started becoming a part of my brand. That I do talk about failure, I do talk about setbacks, and it's me.
Yeah.
You cannot set me apart as just, somebody who graduated from Christ. You just cannot set that apart. Acknowledging the fact that I struggled throughout my college life. I struggled so much, because being away from home for the first time, being away from the parents for the first time, and being the eldest daughter in the family who had certain responsibilities. My father would call from the one end, my mother would call from the one end, and they would be like, your father is not listening to me. My father would be like, your mother is not listening to me. I'm like, I know, I am the eldest daughter and I have certain responsibilities. So I was struggling through all of this, and yet there were things that I was achieving and there were things that I was failing in, and that is all my brand.
I mean, I am glad that you're back. You're back to your family now. I'm glad for that, one thing. Second, I feel like people don't picture their failures now, because they feel like कि लोग हमें ऐसे ही लेने लग जाएंगे. But regardless of that, you're just not trying to be perfect. You are a human being. We all fail. We all do all of those things. Yeah. Now, coming back to the last and the fun part, one rapid fire round with you. One book that you will recommend to everyone to read.
Oh, that's a pretty difficult question, I would say, because I only read academic books. I mean, I used to be, I'm more of like a fiction person.
Okay.
I don't read non-fiction. Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't.
There have been people who have clearly denied that I don't read books. So that's okay. Everyone has their own way of learning and all of that.
Yeah. Now but if I, again, like you said that you need to recommend a book, I would say I've read The Fault in Our Stars about 100 times now.
Okay.
And it's not because, the whole thing of being in the teenage, but it's also about losing somebody or like losing yourself in the process of growth and development. So you shed yourself and then you become a person which you never imagined you would be. So that's how I see or resonate with Hazel Grace in the story. Or there's another book, it's Trill Triology,
Okay.
where Wendy is a girl and she's a teenager
Okay.
and she lives in the human world.
Okay.
Then later she discovers that she is the princess of a Trill kingdom.
Okay.
Yeah. And how she becomes from this, again, labelized introverted girl to a queen who's running the whole kingdom herself. So that also just made me realize that Labhanshi, empowerment is not just something that happens in a night
Yeah.
or like in a click. It's a process, and you'll have to go through hell and beyond to be someone that you never imagined to be.
Yeah, I mean, persistence, consistency, discipline.
Exactly.
There are so many, patience at the end of the day. There are so many things. I feel like if you see what kind of books people read, you're able to analyze what kind of people they are. So this brings me to this question is like, if not books, what song do you listen to whenever you feel like you're down? Or maybe which song you want to recommend to people and you want to tell them that, listen to this. You'll get.
Okay. So I am a big BTS fan.
Okay.
People would hate me for it, hate me as much as you want. BTS is coming back in June 2025, so watch out. But anyways, I'm a big BTS fan, and there's this song called Louder Than Bombs. And the hook line for that song is louder than bombs, I break.
Oh.
So I'm not a fragile like a glass, but I'm fragile like a bomb.
Oh.
So dare not mess with me, and that's like that's my pumping up song. That anytime I'm feeling low or something, I would just listen to that song, and I would be like, okay, let's break something today.
That's so nice. I mean, this is great. You'll feel like that pump, that energy
Yeah.
in yourself after listening to something of that sort. And at times, the kind of songs that you listen to actually picture yourself. I mean, at times, the things that you listen to, the reels that you scroll and everything. Now, the last question, one piece of advice that Labhanshi would like to give it if 1 million people would have been listening to you right now and you would like to aware them about something or just like your one piece of advice.
That is a lot of pressure because I do have like a lot to say. Okay. But one thing that I'm not sure, but just do not be afraid to be yourself. That's what I would say. Do not be afraid to make mistakes because you're gonna learn from it. And people usually are like, we don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to make mistakes our parents made. I was that kind of person that I don't want to make the mistakes my parents made, or I don't want to make the mistakes my grandparents made. But ultimately, I realized that even if they are making mistakes, it's a part of their journey.
Yeah.
And the mistakes that I'm making might be different from theirs, but it's a part of my journey. So I have made mistakes, I've learned from them, and I'll keep on making mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, they shape you the way you are. And
Exactly.
I feel
They
like-
shape you, they break you, and they mold you into something new.
redefining.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, so that's it. It was lovely having you with us. I mean, I feel like this is one of that first podcast which actually gave me goosebumps. I'm going to, okay, an honest confession, I don't watch my podcast once it's posted. That's it. Like, I always watch it before it goes live. But after posting it, I never watch it. But honestly, I am going to listen to this ample number of times because this brings a lot of things that, were inside me or maybe, I relate to a lot. So thank you so much for bringing that up. You want to say something?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and even I am not going to listen to this after it is posted, but I am sure people are going to, and I am just looking forward to people's reaction as to what they realize after this, and that's that.
I am excited to post short clips, reels and everywhere of yours, and then I'll see the opinions of people talking about so much. So that's it. That's a wrap. We come to an end. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon because, of course, if you want updates, you need to hit the bell icon. Bye.